afternoon, everybody. So our friend David Tuttle asked some very good questions. One question was, if the British Mandate gave the land that was then known as Palestine as a Jewish homeland, would that not be allowed under the three oaths? Meaning, he said there's an oath not to go up like a wall, and since the British gave that permission, so then it's not a violation. And he was asking, maybe is there something we're missing here as far as how we approach going the history there. We're missing something. He missed something in the history class there. So there are three oaths, right? There's the oath shelo ya'alu k'chayma, not to go up like a wall. Shelo yimdu bo mis'olam, not to rebel against the nations. Shelo yidchuz haketz, and not to push the end times, to force the eschatology through political means or whatever it means. I mean, it's hard to say, even through prayer, as an opinion. All of these things are very difficult to really, define perfectly. All these things. An argument has been made that the Shavua of Shelo Yimdu B'umas Ha'olam, that we should not rebel against the nations, that is included here in this, that is alleviated by the Balfour Declaration. The reason people will say that often, it comes from a letter, how a lot of people interpret a letter that was written by the Or Sameach. The Or Sameach writes that the fear of the oaths has passed. My understanding of that, and I think the way most people understand that, even I know some religious Zionists are intellectually honest enough to recognize that, because in Meshech Chochmah he writes very anti-Zionist things, is that because the Balfour Declaration remained under British mandate and did not award the Zionists their own state, it was therefore not a violation of the oath of rebelling against the nations. But if they would make an independent state, then it would. And that's pretty much my answer here to this question. The exact meaning of not going up like a wall is a rather ambiguous one. We don't need to address that right now. I think it's more along the lines of not rebelling against the nations and not pushing the end times, meaning I think that's also included in this because, it's clear that we're still in Galus as long as we're under another regime. So as long as England was in control, then it was not a violation of the oaths. But once England relinquished control, we're still rebelling against the nations because the Arabs obviously didn't want it. So and it wasn't only for the British to decide that. The fascinating thing, my holy ancestor, the Maharal Prague, writes that actually, even if the nations of the world would force us to violate the oaths, would put a gun to our heads and say, you better have a Jewish state, or else it's a Yarg Val Yavor. There's a whole explanation of that. You can find other places that discuss this, but you can look. I think the name of the Sefer is Netzach Yisrael, where he discusses these questions. So that's pretty much my answer. As far as the issues about the certain things seeming to be extreme from the Satmar Rav. The answer that I would give is how Rav Hutner described the Satmar Rav as how Noach had to deal with the last lion. And the Medrash says that, he was late bringing food. Noah was late bringing food to the lion, and he maimed him. There's a Medrash like this. And they said, well, what's the big deal? He said, but that's the last lion. And the Rav Hutner said Satmar Rav was the last lion. Meaning there were tzaddikim like this in the old days. This is the derech of the old tzaddikim, was the derech of the Satmar Rav. It's not necessarily for everybody, and the Satmar Rav recognized it's not for everybody. He didn't push all of his things on everybody. So just because he conducted himself in a certain manner is not necessarily indicative that he's trying to control other people. In fact, that's the opposite. He really didn't want people to just blindly follow him. He wanted people to follow Torah, and as I explained in the previous video. So thank you for watching. God bless. Please like, share, and subscribe. Comment. We'll see you later.